Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. Mm, yeah. Born and dead, saved by love, count my blessing from above.
And good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending upon where you are around the world. I'm Marcus Holmes, the love activist, and again, happy Black History Month 2022, still rising in Black excellence. I hope that whether you are watching us live from the Love and Stuff community page, or you're watching us on the Marcus R. Holmes page here on Facebook, or any of the love groups that we're connected with, or if you're watching us via restream on YouTube events, Twitch TV, or IG Live, I hope that you will click share, tag 5 of your closest connections or friends, 5 of the more popular ones to join in with us in the celebration of Black history. Also, we will throughout the evening be giving a few shouts out to some birthdays inside and around Love and Stuff. And hopefully, very shortly, we're going to have on the lovely Miss Daisy, who is 98 years old. So I hope to have her on very shortly. She's trying to get her technology situated, and I am hopeful and excited that she might join us. Tonight, we're going to continue our look in Black history. You know, last year we did all 28 days, but we decided to have a weekly look at different aspects of Black history. Sometimes it might be very known portions of Black history and maybe some not so known. So hopefully you'll learn some new facts if you don't already know these facts about Black history, and in the hopes that it will inspire and ignite you to some pride, to some celebration, and to some reflection of stony the road that we have tried. And so I'm excited to have you here, and I hope that you will click share and tag some folks to join us in this discussion. So I am going to click share myself because I want to make sure that a few folks get the opportunity. There we go. I'm able to share with a few folks, and I hope that you will click share right now as I have um, am clicking share myself. So I'm going to be clicking share, and I hope that you will do the same thing. Click share and tag someone to join us in what I think will be, I hope we will learn some interesting facts that maybe we didn't already know. And so I'm hoping that you will share along with us. All right. So I'm just tagging a few folks, a few of our love groups, I call them Inside of Love and Stuff. You definitely want to join Inside of Love and Stuff if you haven't already. And I am just clicking share for a few folks. Come right on in and click share. Tag someone to join us, 1 or 2 or 5 of your closest Facebook friends, YouTube connections, Twitch TV followers to join us in what I hope will be an opportunity for you to learn and celebrate some things about our history. And tonight we're going to take a look at one specific short period in our history. Some would consider it recent history. And I thought I would just share this information with you. I thought it would be great to share today. And I'm almost done sharing. What about you? Have you clicked share to tag someone to join us? All right, fantastic. All right, I'm almost done clicking share. Thank you so much for your patience. We moved a little slow on that click and share the first time around, but I'm excited to be able to share with you. Okay, fantastic. I think I've clicked all the shares. And whether you're watching us here live on the Love and Stuff community page, or if you're watching us on the Marcus R. Holmes page here on Facebook, or any of the love groups that we've shared with, I say love groups because we love to be connected to all of the groups. I would be remiss to call all the names, but I'm hoping that if you're in one of those groups, you will shout it out just in the comments. And if you're watching via restream, we're all via restream, but if you're watching us on Twitch TV or YouTube events, welcome and thank you for joining us. And so tonight we want to talk a little bit about the Black arts, movement. And I think it's an interesting aspect of our history, and I wanted to share it with you. Sometimes it's referred to as the artistic sister of the Black Power movement. The Black arts movement stands as the single most controversial moment in the history of African American literature. Thank you, Leonard Forrest, cousin. Betty Smith, I hope you will click share. Possibly in American literature as a whole. It fundamentally changed the attitudes of American attitudes toward the function and meaning of literature, as well as the place of ethnic literature in English departments. Although a detractor is, to some degree, African American scholar Henry Louis Gates Jr., who says it's the shortest and least successful movement in the African American cultural history, he once said. With roots in civil rights movement, Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, and the Black Power movement, the Black arts movement is usually dated from approximately 1960 to 1970. Both the Black Power and Black arts movements were responses to the turbulent socio-political landscape of the time. As racial inequality prevailed and Black leaders such as Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr. were assassinated, organizations like the Congress of Racial Equality, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense worked to protect the rights of African Americans. On the relationship between the Black Power and Black arts movement, Larry Neal writes, Black art is the aesthetic and spiritual sister of the Black Power concept. The Black arts and the Black Power concept both relate broadly to the Afro-Americans' desire for self-determination and nationhood, end quote. The artists within the Black arts movement sought to create politically engaged work that explored the African American cultural and historical experience and transformed the way African Americans were portrayed in literature and the arts. While the Black arts movement certainly wasn't limited to poetry, poetry was the genre that saw the most expansion and growth at that time. Like members of the Harlem Renaissance, Black arts writers also crafted a Black voice that drew on African American vernacular, songs, and sermons in free verse that was experimental, incorporating jazz, the blues, and many linguistic and rhythmic techniques also characterized of the beat movement. One of the most important figures in the Black arts movement was Amiri Baraka, formerly Leroy Jones, who began his career among the Beat generation, living in Greenwich Village and associating with poets such as Allen Ginsberg, Charles Osen, and Gary Snyder. Following the assassination of Malcolm X in 1965, Baraka made a symbolic move from Manhattan's Lower East Side to Harlem, where he founded the Black Arts Repertory Theater School. According to the Norton Anthology of African American Literature, and I quote, no one was more competent in the combination of the experimental and the vernacular than Amiri Baraka, whose volume Black Magic Poetry, 1961 to 1967, is one of the finest products of the African American creative energies of the 1960s, end quote. Baraka also became known for his Dutchman, a shocking one-act play that was charged with symbolism and a radical Black consciousness. Other poets of the Black arts movement include Gwendolyn Brooks, Ed Bullins, Eldridge Seaver, Jane Cortez, Harold Cruz, Mary Evans, Hoyt Fuller, Nikki Giovanni, Lorraine Hansberry, Gil Scott Heron, Molana Rankarunga, Etheridge Knight, Adrian Kennedy, Haki R. Madhubuti, Larry Neal, Ishmael Reed, Sonia Sanchez, and Tazaki Shange, Quincy Troop, and John Alfred Williams. Sometimes criticized as misogynist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic, and racially exclusive, the Black arts movement is also credited with motivating a new generation of poets, writers, and artists. In recent years, however, many other artists, Native Americans, Latinos, Latinas, gays and lesbian, and younger generation African Americans, for instance, have acknowledged their debt to the Black arts movement. So I want to first talk a little bit about Baraka, um, uh, Amiri Baraka, because some say 1960, arguably 1965. The Black arts movement was a Black nationalism movement that focused on music, literature, drama, and the visual arts made up of Black artists and intellectuals. This was the cultural section of the Black Power movement, in that its participants shared many of the ideologies of Black self determination, political beliefs, and African American culture. The Black arts movement, again, is credited for starting with in 1965 when the Black Arts Repertory Theater was established in Harlem. Artists associated with the movement include Audre Lorde, Ntozake Shanghai, who I've mentioned, James Baldwin, Gil Scott Heron, and Thelonious Monk, along with Maya Angelou, Gwendolyn Brooks, Lorraine Hansberry, Nicky Giovanni, all of them a part of this movement. Amiri Baraka was born Everett Leroy Jones in Newark, New Jersey on October 7th, 1934. In 1954, he earned a bachelor's degree in English at Howard University. Following graduation, Jones joined the military and served 3 years in the Air Force. After receiving an honorable discharge, he settled in Greenwich Village in New York and began to interact with various musicians and artists. While living in New York, he became a well-respected novelist and poet for his writing on Black liberation and white racism. He also met Hetty Cohen, a Jewish writer. Later on, the two married and co-edited the literary magazine Eugen. They also founded Totem Press, which focused on publishing the works of political activists. Jones taught at several colleges and universities before changing his name to Amiri Baraka. Baraka continued to publish literary works for over 50 years until his death in 2014. Records at the National Archives pertaining to Baraka include a sound recording of him reciting a poem that was considered to be an un American activity. So I'm going to read from his poem. I hope that you are clicking share. One of his poems, and I am going to substitute some of this language that's a bit strong, I think, for Facebook, but we're going to certainly try to stay true to the art and tenor form of the poem, which is entitled Black Art. Poems are BS. I'll point when I'm substituting, unless they are teeth or trees or lemons piled on a step, or Black ladies dying of men, leaving nickel hearts beating them down. F poems, and they are useful. They shoot come at you, love what you are, breathe like wrestlers, or shudder strangely after kissing. We want live words of the hip world, live live flesh and coursing blood, hearts, brains, souls, splintering fire. We want poems like fists beating Negroes out of jocks, or dagger poems in the slimy bellies of the owner Jews. Black poems to smear on girdle mama, mulatto bees whose brains are red jelly stuck between Lisbeth Taylor's toes. Thinking, ladies of the evening, we want poems that kill. Assassin poems, poems that shoot guns, poems that wrestle cops into alleys and take their weapons, leaving them dead with tongues pulled out and sent to Ireland. Knockoff poems, dope selling wops, or slick half white political uh, politician air, airline poems, airplane poems, are setting fire and death to white tails. Look at the liberal spokesman for the Jews clutch his throat and puke himself into eternity. There's a Negro leader pinned to a bar stool and Sardi's eyeballs melting in hot flame. Another Negro leader on the steps of the White House, one kneeling between the sheriff's thighs, negotiating coolly for his people. Ah, stumbles across the room. Put him on him, poem. Strip him naked to the world. Another bad poem cracking steel knuckles in a Jew lady's mouth. Poem spring poison gas on beats in green berets. Clean out the world for virtue and love. Let there be no love poems written until love can exist freely and cleanly. Let Black people understand that they are the lovers and the sons of warriors, and sons of warriors are poems and poets and all the loveliness here in the world. We want a Black poem and a Black world. Let the world be a Black poem, and let all Black people speak this poem silently or loud. And again, that is Black art from Amiri Baraka, the credited as the founder of the Black Arts Movement. We are talking about the Black Arts Movement today, sharing with you the Black Arts Movement roughly from 1965, some say 1960 to 75, but 1965. And among those people, as we read from Dr. Maya Angelou last week, we will also share from Audre Lorde and Tozaki Shange, from Gil Scott Heron, excuse me, and James Baldwin tonight. So we will share parts of them, and we will start next with James Baldwin. James Baldwin was born August 2nd, 1924 in Harlem, New York. After graduating from high school in 1942, Baldwin began writing. In 1953, he published his first novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Prior to releasing his first novel, Baldwin chose to leave America and move to France because of his dissatisfaction with the open racism and homophobia in the United States. In 1962, he visited the United States in order to participate in the civil rights movement, namely attending a march on Washington. During the height of the struggle for Black equality, Baldwin was widely known for his militant essays that illustrated the social and economic plight of Black Americans. His writings addressed the issues of race, but also mentioned the complexity of homosexuality and sexual orientation among the Black experience in the U.S. After the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, Baldwin returned to France and continued writing until his death in 1987. Records at the National Archive pertaining to James Baldwin include moving images from the Peace Corps, the Agency for International Development, and an interview with Pulitzer Prize winner Gwendolyn Brooks. And we'll read an excerpt of Notes of a Native Son. Thank you if you have joined us. We are Charles Blue, Daisy Moselle, Betty Smith. Okay, Charles Blue, Bilal Muhammad, thank you all. Charles Blue, can you help Daisy? I sent her the link on her cell phone. I would love to shout her out. And if she clicks on the link, you can get her in the room with me, and then I can bring her live. I want people to see your beautiful mother, who you love so much. And we love her too, but I know you take great care of your mom, and I just wanted to highlight her today. She recently had her 98th birthday, and we're excited. So while we're waiting to get her in, Notes of a Native Son, I'm just going to read some excerpts. My last night in New Jersey, a white friend from New York took me to the nearest big town, Trenton, to go to the movies and have a few drinks. As it turned out, he also saved me from, at the very least, a violent whipping. Almost every detail of that night stands out very clearly in my memory. I even remember the name of the movie we saw because its title impressed me as being so patently ironical. It was a movie about the German occupation of France, starring Maureen O'Hara and Charles Laughton, and called This Land Is Mine. I remember the name of the diner we walked into when the movie ended. It was the American Diner. When we walked in, the counterman asked what we wanted, and I remember answering with a casual sharpness, which had become my habit. We want a hamburger and a cup of coffee. What do you think we want? I do not know why, after a year of such rebuffs, I so completely failed to anticipate his answer, which was, of course, we don't serve Negroes here. This reply failed to decompose me, at least for the moment. I made some sardonic comment about the name of the diner, and we walked out into the streets. This was the time of what we call the brownout, when the lights in all American cities were very dim. When we re entered the street, something happened to me which had the force of an optical illusion or a nightmare. The streets were very crowded, and I was facing north. People were moving in every direction, but it seemed to me in that instant that all of the people I could see, and many more than that, were moving toward me, against me, and that everyone was white. I remember how their faces gleamed, and I felt like a physical sensation, a click at the nape of my neck as though some interior string connecting my head to my body had been cut. I began to walk. I heard my friend call after me, but I ignored him. Heaven only knows what was going on in his mind, but he had the good sense not to touch me. I don't know what would have happened if he had, and to keep me in sight. I don't know what was going on in my mind either. I certainly had no conscious plan. I wanted to do something to crush these white faces, which were crushing me. I walked for perhaps a block or two until I came to an enormous, glittering, and fashionable restaurant in which I knew not even the intercession of the Virgin would cause me to be served. I pushed through the doors and took the first vacant seat I saw at a table for two and waited. I do not know how long I waited, and I rather wonder until today what I could possibly have looked like. Whatever I looked like, I frightened the waitress who shortly appeared, and the moment she appeared, all of my fury flowed toward her. I hated her for her white face and for her great, astounding, frightened eyes. I felt that if she found a black man so frightening, I would make her fright worthwhile. She did not ask me what I wanted, but repeated as though she had learned it somewhere, "We don't serve Negroes here." She did not say it with the blunt, derisive hostility to which I have grown so accustomed, but rather with a note of apology in her voice and fear. This made me colder and more murderous than ever. I felt I had to do something with my hands. I wanted her to come close enough for me to get her neck between my hands. So I pretended not to have understood her, hoping to draw her closer. And she did step a very short step closer, with her pencil poised incongruously over her pad, and repeated the formula: "Don't serve Negroes here." Somehow, with the repetition of that phrase, which was already ringing in my head like a thousand bells of a nightmare, I realized that she would never come any closer and that I would have to strike from a distance. There was nothing on that table but an ordinary water mug, half full of water, and I picked this up and hurled it with all my strength at her. She ducked, and it missed her and shattered against the mirror behind the bar. And with that sound, my frozen blood abruptly thawed. I returned from wherever I had been. I saw, for the first time, the restaurant, the people with their mouths open, already, as it seemed to me, rising as one man, and I realized what I had done and where I was, and I was frightened. I rose and began running for the door. A round, pot bellied man grabbed me by the nape of the neck just as I reached the door and began to beat me about the face. I kicked him and got loose and ran into the streets. My friend whispered, "Run!" And I ran. My friend stayed outside of the restaurant long enough to misdirect my pursuers and the police who arrived. He told me at once. I do not know what I said to him when he came to my room that night. I could not have said much. I felt in the oddest, most awful way that I had somehow betrayed him. I lived it over and over and over again, the way one relives an automobile accident after it has happened and one finds oneself alone and safe. I could not get over two facts, both equally difficult for the imagination to grasp, and one that I could have been murdered. But the other was that I had been ready to commit murder. I saw nothing very clearly, but I did see this: that my life, my real life, was in danger, and not from anything other people might do, but from the hatred I carried in my own heart. That's excerpts of a Notes of a Native Son. And I think I have one of our guests who has joined me here. All right, fantastic. We are celebrating the Black Arts Movement, but I want to take a moment to pause to celebrate one of the Inside of Love and Stuff community members' birthdays. And I see him in the green room, at least I see the shadow of him in the green room. And so I will look to see, I don't see his face there. Let me find him. See if I can bring him in with us. Okay, I can hear you, but I don't see you.
You don't see me? Hang on.
All righty.
Nope, I don't see you at all.
Yeah, me either. I don't know why it's not connecting. Doesn't like this restream. Maybe I need to change. Let's see. Is there a setting on here for the camera?
If you're doing the restream in your browser, at the top of your browser,
there it is. Let me change that.
And while he's coming in, thank you, Vored on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. There he is. That is Bilal Muhammad.
What's going on, Marcus Holmes?
Bilal Muhammad, happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir.
And may the Lord bless you with many more. How old are you, for the record?
Oh man, and I gotta disclose my age, don't you know? No, I'm just joking. 51, brother. I've been on this planet 51 good years.
51 good years. All right, shout out to that. So, do you have some special thing that you hope for in this year? What is the blessing that you're hoping for in this year for yourself?
Oh, the blessing that I'm hoping for. Oh man, just continue my walk with the Lord, man. Just continue to get closer. One of the things I said with the pandemic, I've actually felt like I've gotten closer, with my spiritual walk with the Lord. So continue with that. Take some pages out of your book about self-care. Sometimes, the world's going to be here. But if you're not taking care of yourself and taking care of everybody else, that could be a problem. So, self-care.
I love that. Absolutely. I love to hear that.
So, self-care is huge on my list. Opening up that heart a little bit as well. And, just making sure, family still, everyone is good. So, man, I'm just loving life. That's the way I'll put it.
Excellent. Excellent. And I love that you tapped into self-care. You did that without, I got to pay you now.
Hey,
you did
man,
that without any prompting, because we're on a self-care journey. And the month of January was about sleep. And,
absolutely,
we don't ever get enough sleep, right? Because even in our early 50s, we're still trying to make it happen, whatever it is: career, love, relationship, family, all of those things, rearing kids, getting them to college, getting them through college, all of that, right? And sometimes we find sleep in there, but restful sleep is important to replenishing our life. And so there's a whole 12-month journey about self-care that we're going upon. What would you say is your greatest area of need of self-care? Where do you think it's going to most plug some energy in this year?
Well, it's funny when you talk about sleep, because I realized it's probably about I don't know if it's been a year and a half or maybe 2 years, but I was that dude that went to bed at 2 o'clock and I was back up at 6, man. So, getting 4 hours of sleep, you really can't tell, that it's really affecting you until it affects you. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm making a point. I try to set bedtime for 11, still try to get up at 6. I don't know what's been going on, but I've been, sleeping there until about 6:45. Mm-hmm. So, but you have to have a routine. Your body craves to sleep because, one of the books I read, it says, your body is healing itself while you're sleeping, and also the mind is decompressing, while you're sleeping. Yes. So, I think that was like my last couple of years journey, is making sure that I sleep. So now we're focusing on making sure that the heart is good.
Yes.
So,
I think that's so important. And kudos to you because sleep weighs on the heart. One of the
Oh
things my
man,
cardiologist
absolutely,
always says to me, what
absolutely,
is your sleep life like? He's always saying that to me because being
so
bivocational,
on.
my internal clock is on different clocks, right? I'm on
Yeah,
a music clock, but I'm also on a human resources clock and on a love and stuff clock, right? So you got all of these different circadian rhythms going, and you really need one, but we don't
absolutely,
really do our heart well, heal our bodies well, as you said, when we don't get that sleep. And we have a self-care journal that we're encouraging everybody to join Bilal inside of Love and Stuff so you can get that self-care journal. But in that journal, it talks about some of the things you should eliminate, like blue lights, turn off the
oh
TV.
right,
I some years ago, and I went back the other direction, Bilal, but some years ago, in the last place that I lived, I didn't have a TV in my room. The
mm-hmm,
only thing that happened in my room was sleep and reading, really, at that time.
absolutely,
And so, but now I do, I had an extra TV, and of course, it's back in my room. But, I cut the TV off at a certain time,
mm-hmm,
after I'm done. The blue light of the phone, I try to plug my phone up away from me. I got a work phone separate from my personal phone. I plug that up in another room
yeah,
so that
yeah,
all of this blue light, all of these things is telling your mind that you still need to be awake.
absolutely,
And on my iPhone, I set the sleepy time. It cuts off all notifications and so that nobody can disturb me except emergency people in
that's a
case
good
of an
one.
emergency, so that you cut off all of those lights so that you tell your body it's the time to go to sleep. And one of the things that's important is to revisit the accomplishments that you had in a day. Don't revisit regret,
Absolutely,
revisit accomplishments and things that you're grateful for at the end of the day. And it helps you to sleep better because it tells your
absolutely,
mind everything's going to be okay. There's nothing else you can do today to save today. It's over. And let's get prepared for the next day. And
and I'm
so,
glad you said that. Let me say this: I saw a sleep therapist a couple of years ago,
mhm,
and he told me, "Don't read in the bed, don't eat in the bed, don't watch TV in the bed, don't do any activity, don't put your laptop on your lap, and don't do anything except go to sleep."
yeah,
And so I was like, man, really? So when I adopted that method, when you go to the bed, your body is trained. You put
mhm,
your head on the pillow, it knows it's sleepy time.
mhm,
And so now it's not often that when I go to bed that I don't fall asleep within 30 minutes.
mhm.
And I mean, I was just like, wow, went back to him, was like, are you kidding?
That's
It
good.
works. So,
That's good.
that's something we have to do. People do so many different things. They wake up in the morning, they watch the TV. I got a TV in my room as well, Marcus,
Mhm,
but I only try to watch it in the evening. I mean, in the morning when I'm just trying to hear what the weather is like.
mhm,
If Alexa doesn't tell me first, but
mhm.
so I try to stay away from it.
Yeah,
But
I think
yeah,
I think that's really important. I do, and I like your therapist advice. I haven't quite gotten there on the reading. There are sometimes things I will read in the bed,
yeah, yeah,
moments of meditations and things like that. But you're right. The less that you train your body to think that you have to still think, because breathing
absolutely,
is connecting you to thought. The more that you start to wind down in your mind, and a good night's sleep, I believe. I've had some people, and hopefully Daisy Ferguson hopefully will be coming on so we can wish her a happy birthday. She just turned 98,
oh my
and
goodness, yes,
most people believe in a good night's sleep.
yeah, yeah,
And you'd be surprised if you think of the Okinawans and people who have lived a long time. I write a little bit about them in my Gratefulness Journey Everyday book, shameless plug. But if you go and read about the Okinawans and other people who lived a long time, they
that's
talk
true.
about having a small circle of really close relationships, eating right, and getting sleep.
Right,
So that's why our self care journal started with sleep. People say, but no, it's the beginning of the year, you want to get hustling. I said, no, you want to get rest so
yep,
that your hustle will be optimized. You can maximize your hustle if you get the rest that you need. And so
absolutely,
sleep is where we
absolutely,
start. And now we're in the month of February and it's talking about eating right and eating more healthy. So we'll be talking about that because I'm a foodie and I love fatty foods and greasy foods. And I'm working on
Cheesecake Factory,
things in moderation, working
absolutely.
on eating right, and then the exercise won't be so bad when we get to March. And Tamuk and others are just waiting for me. Tamuk is sending me inbox to say it's leg day, and I told him not until March.
Well, you can start a little something right now. You
Yeah,
know, the other thing was take 10 minutes of a walk.
Yeah,
If it's just walking around your dining room or your
yeah,
house or something, up
yeah,
and down the stairs, it's just
yeah.
10 minutes. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I do that, and I'm good when the weather is good.
absolutely, I know.
Because I go
Yeah,
out and ride the bike 4 times a week, but the
hmm,
weather's not conducive to that. So you're
yeah,
right. You got to find different ways to just stay mobile and moving, and that's what a chiropractor was just telling me the other day. So that's good. Miss Jenkins has joined us again. Charles Blue. I hope you get Daisy in this room. Betty Smith.
Michelle,
Uh,
that's my daughter. I was just on the phone with her.
oh, wonderful. So
What's up,
so
Michelle?
so drop something in the comments about your dad and him
Uh
being
oh.
51. Autumn thinks that we're 51 and old. I told her we're just
Oh yeah.
51 growing in grace. That's what we're doing. I'm talking to Bilal Muhammad. If you're just joining us, whether you're joining us like Nijin Galbi, who is on YouTube and he's on the other side of the pond. So I'm
All
sure
right.
it's morning there. I'm glad. Welcome and thank you for joining us. I hope you will click, share, and tag folks. Before I let you go, you've lived 51 years and you've seen some great times and maybe some tough times. What would you say to someone who's coming behind you, 50, 49, 48? What would you tell them that they should make sure that they do if they can before they get to 51? What advice would you give somebody?
Mm.
What should they do before they get to 51?
Man, it it's funny because like you said, I can think back on some times that weren't so good and some that are good.
Mm-hmm,
But no matter what, enjoy every day.
mm-hmm,
It doesn't matter.
mm-hmm,
Enjoy where you are. You
mm-hmm,
know, Tomorrow's not promised. But
mm-hmm,
if you knew that you did the best you could today,
mm-hmm.
that's all that matters. And
Yeah,
tomorrow you get another chance to do something better.
yeah. That is so powerful, Bilal. It seems so simple, and for some people, it's so tough, but it is so
Yeah,
powerful to live in the moment
absolutely.
because sometimes we waste time thinking about what will happen in the next moment that we're not really
It's not
living
here yet.
in the moment and working to connect these moments to make a life. So I
Absolutely.
think that's really big. I think that's great advice for anybody at any age, but especially getting to where you and I are in our age, because a
Hey,
lot of times years pass you by and you're trying to get that thing that feels elusive and you forget to enjoy all of the jigsaw
all this,
puzzle that got you there.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad you say that because also you got to appreciate where you are.
Hmm.
Because I grew up 2959 Tuxedo, Detroit Wildermere, Dexter
Hmm.
Linwood,
Hmm.
and I don't live there anymore. But to appreciate growing up in a two-bedroom home with one bathroom,
Hmm.
and I'm still trying to figure out how we did that. You
Hmm.
know, how five people in one house. I had two sisters. My dad, my mom, and then my cousin came to live with us. But
Hmm.
how we all get up and take showers every day. You
Hmm.
know, there was sometimes, brother, I had to go in the alley and use the bathroom because there was a line of people. But man, we did it,
Hmm.
and you know what? We were happy.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And nowadays everybody's running for the dollar bill. The dollar
Hmm.
bill is not,
Hmm.
it's not the prize.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think things bring you happiness, people bring you happiness and contentment. And when you're content, you can enjoy the happiness much more because you don't treat it as something fleeting or
absolutely,
temporal. You treat it as moments that you want to recur over and over again.
absolutely.
And that only comes from people being involved in the things and not things themselves.
I don't know,
So,
Marcus. I can think of a thing that'll make me happy every day of the week.
what's that thing that will make you happy every day of the week?
I'm looking at this 7 foot yacht somewhere, the Cayman Islands, though.
Yeah,
But
and that will
that's one
make
of
you
those.
happy. But I bet if you have love along
Absolutely.
with you on that yacht, you'll be more content.
Oh,
So I'm
absolutely,
not saying things won't make us happy. No, I don't. I'm not
absolutely,
saying that. I'm saying you want happiness and contentment because
absolutely.
that way you do what you just said. You live in the moment with what you have and who you have to share it with.
It's funny because my children took me to Top Golf Saturday,
Hmm.
and they never really golfed before, and just to be out there, and yeah, it was cold, but the heaters was going. You have fun. You forget it was cold, and that time, those 3 hours, we were happy.
Hmm.
I didn't have a care in the world. Didn't think about the bills to be paid or the schoolwork to be done or whatever. So. Absolutely, man. You got to remember, family is important as well.
Yeah,
You know, we can't take this journey by ourselves. So you got to
yeah,
be grateful,
yeah.
grateful in this journey.
Gratefulness journey. There you go, plugging it. Thank you so much. Well,
Of
Bilal,
course.
thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of the Love and Stuff community. It's
Oh,
really
you're
our
welcome.
privilege to have great people like you in our community. And I want people to see Bilal and join him inside of Love and Stuff. Now, he is in the Love and Stuff community, but he got some love brewing, and we'll come back and talk to him about that later. So
That's later.
don't look at his face and think, oh, I'm going in there for that purpose. There are just wonderful people inside of the Love and Stuff community to meet.
Absolutely.
And you never know. You might be thinking you're connecting for one reason, and you could be connecting to somebody for a whole different other reason. And Bilal is one of those people. So join
Absolutely.
us inside of Love and Stuff. You can go to Inside of Love and Stuff, click groups, and click to join. It's 3 questions that we ask you to make sure you comport with the group. And there's going to be content relative to the self care journey that we're only going to have inside of Love and Stuff. So you want to make sure that you join. And you might get the sneak peek at some of the new products and things that we're doing that others won't get that peek too. But stay tuned with us. You may have a chance to win something special. Those that are watching, we're going back into our Black Arts movement. Thank you, Bilal. Happy birthday. So many, many more.
Hey,
Much love
thank you,
from the Love and
Marcus.
Stuff community. Appreciate you so
Appreciate
much.
you. Appreciate you, my brother. You have a good night.
You too. All right. So that's Bilal Muhammad. We love Bilal Muhammad in the Love and Stuff community. And you should join us in the Love and Stuff community as we return to our Black History segment, Still Rising in Excellence. Hello, Lena Brown. Click share and tag someone to join us. We are going back into our Black arts movement. We read some from Amiri Baraka, who is the leader, considered the founder of the Black arts movement, along with a piece by James Baldwin. We talked about a number of the folks that are within the Black Arts Movement, and I'm reading a short piece excerpt of Ntozake Shange. Now, you probably heard her name um, from some of the great playwright work that she's done. So I want to share a little bit about her. Born in 1948, passed away in 2018, and then I'll read a short piece of her work. Ntozake Shange was born Paulette Williams into an upper middle class African American family. Her father was an Air Force surgeon and her mother a psychiatric social worker. Cultural icons such as Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, W.E.B. Du Bois were regular guests in the Williams home. Shanghai attended Barnard College, excuse me, and the University of Southern Cal, earning both a bachelor's degree and master's degree in American Studies. Her college years were difficult, however. Frustrated and hurting after separating from her first husband, she attempted suicide several times before focusing her rage against the limitations society imposed on Black women. While earning a master's degree, she reaffirmed her personal strength based on a self determining identity and took her African name, which means she who comes with her own things and she who walks like a lion. Shange would Shange would go on a successful triple career as an educator, performer, director, and writer whose work drew heavily on her experiences of being a Black female in America. Shange was perhaps most famous for her play For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, 1975. A unique blend of poetry, music, dance, and drama called a choreo poem. It took the theater world by storm, noted Jacqueline Trescott in the Washington Post, as it becomes an electrifying Broadway hit and provoked heated exchanges about the relationships between Black men and women. Its form, 7 women on the stage dramatizing poetry, was a refreshing slap at the traditional 1, 2, 3 act structures, unquote. Mel Gusseau, writing in the New York Times, stated that Miss Shange was a pioneer in terms of her subject matter. The fury of Black women at their double subjugation in white male America. The play uses female dancers to dramatize poems that recall encounters with their classmates, lovers, rapists, abortionists, and latent killers. The women survive abuse and disappointment and come to recognize in each other the promise of a better future. The play received both enthusiastic reviews and criticism for its portrayal of African American men. However, Shangai's poems aren't war cries, writes Jack Kroll in a Newsweek review of the public theater production of For Colored Girls. They're outcries filled with a controlled passion against the brutality that blasts the lives of colored girls, a phrase that in her hands vibrates with social irony and poetic beauty. These poems are political in the deepest sense, but there's no dogma, no sentimentality, no grinding of false mythic axis. Unquote. Critic Edith Oliver of The New Yorker remarked, quote, the evening grows in dramatic power, encompassing, it seems, every feeling and experience a woman has ever had. Strong and funny, it is entirely free of the rasping earnestness of most projects of this sort. The verses and monologues that constitute the program have been very well chosen, contrasting in mood, yet always subtly building, unquote. The play received an Obie Award, the Outer Critics Circle Award, and the Aldelco Award, as well as Tony, Grammy, and Emmy nominations. In 2010, director Tyler Perry adapted the choreo poem into a full-length feature. Shangai's next productions of Photograph, A Study of Cruelty, Boogie Woogie Landscapes, Spell Number 7, also received an Obie Award. Black and white two-dimension planes impressed critics with their poetic quality. As Richard Eder wrote in the New York Times, quote, more than anything else, Shangai is a troubadour. She declares her fertile vision of the love and pain between Black women and Black men in outbursts full of old malice and young cheerfulness. They are short outbursts, song length. Her characters are perceived in flashes in illuminating vignettes, unquote. Don Wilson, writing in the New York Daily News, deemed Spell Number 7, quote, the word that best describes Shangai's works, which are not plays in the traditional sense, but power. I want to read, of course, she's written, published essays, books, collections of poems. The Beacon Best of 1990 was a collection of poems, short stories, and essays that she also edited. She has taught at numerous universities throughout her career and was the recipient of honors and awards, including fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation, the Lila Wallace Reader's Digest Fund, and a Pushcart Prize. She died late in 2018. So it's a small excerpt of one of her poems that we're going to read, and I invite you to read more of her work in Tozaki Shangai. I live in music. Is this where you live? I live here in music. I live on C Sharp Street. My friend lives on B Flat Avenue. Do you live here in music? Sound falls round me like rain on other folks. Saxophones wet my face, cold as winter in St. Louis. Hot like peppers I rub on my lips, thinking they was lilies. I got 15 trumpets where other women's got hips, and an upright bass for both sides of my heart. I walk around in a piano like somebody else be walking on the earth. I live in music. Live in it. Wash in it. I CD even smell it. Wear sound on my fingers. Sound falls so full of music. Your CD make a river where your arms is, and hold yourself. Hold yourself in music. I invite you to read more. I know you've seen her work, but read more of her essays, collections of poems, even the poems that she's edited into Zake Shangai. We salute her as a voice in the Black arts movement. We continue looking in the Black Arts Movement as we have read from Amiri Baraka, as we have read from James Baldwin, as we have just read from Ntozake Shange. We want to continue reading, and we'll read um, from a poem by another voice in the Black Arts Movement, Audre Lorde, A Litany for Survival. I invite you to learn more about her, and we're looking for Daisy to join us, who we are celebrating her 98th birthday. So I'm still looking for her. A Litany for Survival by Audre Lorde. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone. For those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways coming and going, in the hours between dawn, looking inward and outward, at once before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours. For those of us who were imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milks, for by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hope to silence us, for all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we're afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid that love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Audre Lorde, A Litany of Survival. I want to go and read just a little bit of the background of a few others we shared with you, Nikki Giovanni, work last week, and Gwendolyn Brooks and Lorraine Hansberry are also noted figures during this time. Gwendolyn Brooks was an American poet and teacher and is known as the first African-American woman to win a Pulitzer when she was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry for her work, Annie Allen, 1950. Brooks was born on June 7th, 1917, in Topeka, Kansas. 6 weeks after her birth, the Brooks family moved to Chicago. Growing up in Chicago and attending majority white, then Black, and then integrated schools gave Brooks a varied perspective on racial dynamics in America, which would later come to influence her future work. In the 1940s, Brooks became heavily involved in attending poetry workshops in Chicago, in particular, workshops organized by Inez Cunningham Stark. World-renowned poet Langston Hughes stopped by one of those workshops, and after hearing her recite her poem, The Ballad of Pearl May Lee, he became a fan of her work and acted as her mentor. She published several works of poetry, including A Street in Bronzeville, 1945, and In the Mecca, 1968, which both earned critical acclaim. One of her better known poems, We Real Cool, was published in her third book of poetry, The Bean Eaters, 1960, and is widely studied in literature classes and reprinted in literature textbooks. Brooks taught poetry and writing around the country at several well-known colleges and universities, such as the University of Chicago, Columbia University, and Elmhurst College, and continued on in that respect until her death on December 3rd, 2000, in her hometown of Chicago. Again, we shared Nikki Giovanni, and we will share a little bit of the history of Lorraine Hansberry, also a noted figure in the Black arts movement from 1965 to 75. Some say 1960 to 1970. Lorraine Hansberry, May 19th, 1930, January 12th, 1965. A native of Chicago, Illinois, Lorraine Hansberry, is known as one of the most significant and influential playwrights of the 20th century. She wrote the landmark play, A Raisin in the Sun, which opened at Ethel Barrymore Theater in New York City in 1959. A Raisin in the Sun was the first play written by an African-American woman to be produced on Broadway. The play depicted the characteristics, emotions, and struggles of an urban Black family and eventually won a New York Drama Circle Critics Award and 4 Tonys for Best Play, Director, Actress, and Actor. Because of the success of the play, Hansberry was credited for breaking down racial barriers on Broadway and ushering in a new opportunity for African American women playwrights. In 1961, she wrote the screenplay to A Raisin in the Sun in order to turn the play into a movie. The movie starred the late Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee. It became successful as the play and allowed the actors to gain considerable recognition for their roles. Hansberry's second play, and only other production put on her in lifetime, The Sign of Sidney Brustein's Widow, ran for 101 performances. The day that the play closed was the same day that Hansberry died at the age of 34 from pancreatic cancer. Hansberry had many other works, including writings for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and contributions to lesbian rights organizations. Records at the National Archive pertaining to Lorraine Hansberry include moving images among the records of the Agency for International Development and Sound Recording. Lorraine Hansberry, Pulitzer Prize winning. And we'll hear more about those two as we go throughout the month. But we wanted this Black arts movement to hear the figures that were major and prominent in this movement. And we, I believe, have one reading that we will do of Gwendolyn Brooks very shortly. All right. Another member of the movement, Gil Scott Heron. And this poem is very well known, and I wanted to share it at this point. The revolution will not be televised. You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beers during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spiro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner, because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run, or trying to slide that color television into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 or report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers in the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers in the instant of replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still life of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he'd been saving just for the proper occasion. Green Acres, the Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damned relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally gets down with Jane or search for tomorrow because Black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no picture of hairy armed women, liberationalists, and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb, Francis Scott Key, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Ingo Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, a tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight the germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no reruns, brothers. The revolution will be live. So just thinking about the language of these pieces that we have shared in part, some of them excerpts, gives you a sense of why the Black arts movement was considered the intelligentsia of the socio-political aspect of the Black Power movement as it relates to the genre of arts. Some of these are put to music. Much of the work of Gil Scott-Heron is put to music in rap type form as a forerunner, infusing jazz, infusing so many different things. So this genre, these arts and the genre of poetry especially, but music and plays spoke to the socio-political thoughts and ideologies of the day, many that were steeped in, that had at their fulcrum self-determination. It's Black History Month, and we wanted to make sure that we highlighted the Black arts movement, and thank you, Gil Scott-Heron. I've highlighted a couple of the writers, and I, of course, wanted to note that, and I think I mentioned a Pulitzer Prize, Gwendolyn Brooks, for her work, Annie Allen, to be able to share a part of that with you too. We'll see if we can share a part of her book. Okay, we're having a little trouble pulling it up, but we will keep proceeding as we are highlighting the Black arts movement. All right. And we're just checking to see if our last guest has joined us. Thank you, Henrietta Martin, for joining us on YouTube, and all of those that are watching on YouTube, whether you're on this side of the pond, the America's side of the pond, or you're overseas. We appreciate, even amid the time differences, that you're joining us. And I'll take a break right here just to pause to invite you to join us inside of Love and Stuff. It's a new group that we have decided people wanted to get to know each other within the Love and Stuff community. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And there are literally some amazing people in the Love and Stuff community. Why not join our group so that you can meet with us every other week and get a chance right in a messenger room or Zoom room to be able to meet people face to face? It will require you to be on camera. And there is content that will happen inside of the group that is exclusive to the members of that group. So you definitely want to go to the Love and Stuff community page on Facebook under groups, click on Inside of Love and Stuff to join. There are 3 questions we ask you to make sure that you're willing to follow our rules, and we will welcome you inside the group. So I'm looking for you to be there very soon. And I'm just trying to pull up. Let's see. Maybe I can pull up a second one. All right. Okay, I'm going to try to read a part of her Bronzeville work, but I want to read a part of the Pulitzer Prize work. This is called The Old Marrieds. But in the crowding darkness, not a word did they say, though the pretty coat birds had piped so lightly all day, and he had seen the lovers in the little side streets, and she had heard the morning stories clogged with sweets. It was quite a time for loving. It was midnight. It was May. But in the crowding darkness, not a word did they say. It's called The Marrieds. Hunchback girl, she thinks of heaven. My father, it is surely a blue place, and straight, right, regular, where I shall find no need for scholarly nonchalance or looks, a little to the left for guards upon the heart, to hot love that runs without crookedness along its crooked corridors. My father, it is a planned place surely, out of coils, unscrewed, released, no more to be marvelous. I shall walk straightly through most proper halls, proper myself, princess of properness. These are parts of a street in Bronzeville. Ballad of Pearlie Mae Lee. Then off they took you off to jail, 100 hooting after. And you should have heard me at my house. I cut my lungs with my laughter. 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 I cut my lungs with my laughter. They dragged you into a dusty cell, and a rat was in the corner. And what was I doing? Laughing still, though never was a poor girl Lorner. 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 Though never was a poor girl gal Lorner. The sheriff, he peeped in through the bars, and the old red old thing he told you, you son of a bee, you're going to hell, because you wanted white arms to unfold you. Unfold you. Unfold you, because you wanted white arms to unfold you. The Ballad of Pearlie Mae Lee. And I am going to see if I had some momentary trouble pulling up the Pulitzer Prize, Annie Allen. All right. And we shall keep moving. We've read some of her works, but I wanted to share with you the Pulitzer Prize one, and we're having a little technical difficulty pulling this piece up. But you can see the interesting imagery and language used in her poems. Just, a pun on words, kind of the sonnet ballad. She says of her own stuff, you can tell that it's labored, a poem that's very interested in the mysteries and magic of technique. All right, so I'm trying to still pull that one piece up. I think it would be important to be able to read it. And I think is it coming forward? We're struggling. Okay, it's giving us a struggle. Okay. I am so excited that you have joined us. We're at 9:40, and before I come to a close about this edition of the Black Arts Movement, I just want to share a little bit more of the information about this Black African American led art movement that was during the 1960s and 70s. Again, some say 60 to 70, some say 65 to 75. Amiri Baraka, who is the founder of it, the timing of the start by most historians coincides with when he founded the school in Harlem. So we was in 1965 when he established the Black Arts Repertory Theater School, BARTS, in Harlem. And so many were inspired after that. Many involved in the work of socio-political writings and ideology. And so there have been many effects on society from this, though Lewis Henry Gates says it was a short period. It has many writers, as I mentioned, aforementioned, Native Americans, Latinos, Latinas, gays, lesbians, younger generations who acknowledge their debt to the Black arts movement. It was a period of controversy and change in the world of literature. And one major part of that change was through the portrayal of new ethnic voices in the United States. Because English language literature was dominated by white authors. And so African Americans became a greater presence, not only in the field of literature, but in all areas of the arts. Theater groups and poetry performances, music and dance were central to this movement. Through different forms of media, African Americans were able to educate others about the expression of cultural differences and viewpoints. In particular, Black poetry readings allowed African Americans to use vernacular dialogues. This was shown in the Harlem Writers Guild, of which we know Dr. Maya Angelou was part, and Rosa Guy. Their performances were used to express political slogans and as tools for organization. Theater performances also were used to convey community issues and organizations. The theater, as well as culture centers, were based throughout America. This movement was a national movement based throughout America and were used for community meetings, study groups, film screenings. Newspapers were also then a major tool in spreading the Black arts movement. The Black Dialogue was published in 1964, and it was the first major arts movement publication. Although it's short, the Black arts movement is essential to the United States history. It spurred political activism and youth speech throughout every African American community. It allowed African Americans the chance to express their voices in the mass media as well as become involved in communities. It can be argued that the Black arts movement produced some of the most exciting poetry, dance, drama, music, visual arts, fiction, post-World War II. And that many important post-Black artists such as Toni Morrison and, as I mentioned, Ntozake Shange, Alice Walker, and August Wilson were shaped by the movement. The movement has legacy. You and I should move in the voice of the movement to continue to herald the socio-political concerns in our writings, our genre of arts, be it music or dance or drama, even our sermons. As a whole, it inspired people to write once written. And there would be no multicultural movement without Black arts. It influenced the world of literature with the portrayal of different ethnic voices. And before the movement, the literary canon lacked diversity. And again, the ability to express ideas from the point of view of racial and ethnic minorities, not quite valued by the mainstream at that time, but also the beginning of the roots of intersectionality, where the voice of the Black woman uh, is separated in a new and distinctive way. Before we were saying intersectionality, it was the forerunner of it. And so there are many more notable individuals, and I just want to speak their names before we close in this episode of Black History. I know because we have a multicultural community that some may say, where is the love in this? If you don't find what your path and history has brought you to and through, you can never really find the self-love and see it actualized in the way that the Creator has intended. And if you aren't able to appreciate the journey and experiences of other cultures, then you have not truly connected yourself to them, and a part of your self-love tapestry is missing. We've mentioned Amiri Baraka, formerly Leroy Jones, as the founder of the Black Arts Movement, and other names among the ones that we've mentioned: Larry Neal, Nikki Giovanni, Dr. Maya Angelou, Gwendolyn Brooks, Pulitzer Prize winner Gwendolyn Brooks, Haki R. Madhubuti, formerly Don Lee, Sun Ra, Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, Hoyt W. Fuller, Ishmael Reed, Rosa Guy, Dudley Randall, Ed Bullins, David Henderson, Henry Dumas, Sonia Sanchez, Faith Ringgold, Ming Smith, Betty Sayer, Cheryl Clark, John Henrik Clark, Jane Cortez, Don Evans, Mary Evans, Sarah Webster Fabio, Wanda Coleman, Askia M. Torre, Marvin X, Ossie Davis, June Jordan, Sarah E. Wright, Amina Baraka, formerly Sylvia Robinson, and Ellis Hazlip. Many notable organizations were aligned with the Black Arts Movement: AfriCobra, Black Academy of Arts and Letters, Black Artists Group, Black Artists Repertory Theater School, BARTS, Black Dialogue, Black Emergency Cultural Coalition, Broadside Press, Freedom Ways, Harlem Writers Guild, Negro Digest, Organization of Black American Culture, Soul Book, Soul, The Black Scholar, The Crusader, The Liberator, Uptown Writers Movement, Where We At. I read all of those organizations and people because a movement, though started by one, requires more than one. And if we are to fully live out the Afro-American, the African American experience of liberation and pursuit of freedom, we must realize it takes one to get moving, but it takes many to make a movement. And so I call you, from the voices of our ancestors, be you Black, white, yellow, red, blue, or brown, that you take a move to help our movement of liberation and freedom march on in the great spirit, indomitable spirit of the Black Arts Movement, of those that have come before us. I am Marcus Holmes. I am thankful that you have joined us. And I want to make sure that we come back at some point to give an opportunity for a happy birthday to Daisy Ferguson, who turned 98. We'll have to have her on. We're having a special feature next Monday on Valentine's Day. And throughout this week, you will have a chance to win some prizes, some wonderful, scrumptious prizes, and some little bit of cash. What you will need to do is tell us what your vision of love is and make a short video, not more than 30 seconds. And you may have a chance to win one of the prizes. We will be posting all week and we will announce the winners on Valentine's Day, or make sure that some of the deliveries happen on Valentine's Day. But we will announce the winners publicly on Valentine's Day, which is next Monday, special show and edition, along with some other giveaways and prizes. So whether you're married or whether you're single and you just want to have a special addition to your evening already planned after the Super Bowl win for the Rams, that's going to happen on Sunday. On Monday, it wouldn't be a Love and Stuff community if we didn't celebrate some of the love. So we hope that you will join us Monday. You'll see more broadcasts throughout this week, and I hope that you will join in the fun and prizes. Remember, we're celebrating Black History Month all month long, and each week we will have a Black History Month celebration. We'll culminate on the last week of the month with a Black History presentation and our call to action: lift every voice and vote. Your voice is an important part of the movement, and we've got to get your voice moving. Take care of yourself, my friends, and I hope you will click share and tag someone. So whether you're joining us like NFT Productions, Henrietta Martin, Jen Galby on YouTube events, whether you're with us like Leonard Forrest or Lena Brown, whether you're with us like Bilal Muhammad or Betty Smith or Charles Blue, Daisy Moselle, Mishan Jenkins, or whether you're watching this in the replay, click share and tag 5 of your closest connections or friends, 5 of your more popular, to join in our Black History celebration. Have a grateful evening.